This is TV Podcast Industries, and we're talking about Star Wars The Bad Batch, Episode 4, Cornered.
She has to be a bounty hunter.
A what?
Someone hired to retrieve targets. And you appear to be the target.
Me?
Hey, don't scare the kid. We have to find out who she is and who hired her.
Welcome back to a galaxy far, far away and to TV Podcast Industries, fellow troopers. We're talking about The Bad Batch, Episode 4, Cornered. Yes, this is the Star Wars podcast. I am one of your hosts, John.
I'm one of the hosts, Derek.
And rounding out this group, no one puts Omega in a corner. I am Chris.
Love it. Welcome back, troopers.
Is she a fruit corner or a crunchy, knobbly thing corner?
I hope we never get to find that answer out, John.
A Muller yogurt. Yum.
I was going to say, for our American listeners,
that's true, yeah.
The Muller corners were a yogurt, depending on where you're from, where you had the yogurt on one side, and then you had kind of fruit, kind of
jam,
puree jam type thing, or you had like chocolatey bits or cereal, and you would crack the corner and pour it in to the and then swirl it all around.
I'm sure they have those in America. I was sure they did. Maybe not Muller, but they definitely have a version of something like that. I'm sure.
Yeah,
they do.
But it was just that like they had to understand the meaning of them.
Do you know what? Even with that explanation, I don't think our listeners will understand that. But let's start off with a little bit of news from the Star Wars galaxy, let's say.
Is this also from a galaxy far, far away?
It is also from a galaxy far, far away. Well, from America, let's say. About Dave Filoni, the executive producer of this show, has officially been given the title of Executive Creative Director at Lucasfilm. He moved to the role actually last summer, but it was announced this week to everybody, and you could see everybody on Twitter very happy at Dave Filoni's appointment to this role, because this means that he's now a real guiding force in Lucasfilm and in the Star Wars galaxy, which is really cool. He's done so much for all of the shows, all the animated shows. Obviously, his work on Mandalorian is pretty massive as well. He directed episodes, written episodes. So him being another guiding hand behind the scenes, I think is really cool. And they're getting the title to justify it as well. It's really cool.
Yeah, really great news.
I'm interested why they waited 9 months.
Yeah, it's a little weird. Maybe they just thought they'd be able to let him do it and he wouldn't ask for a pay rise.
Yeah, I was kind of like, that's it. They goes, no, show me the money. He Jerry Maguired them.
Or maybe he's finished his probation period, so now he can get through and he gets the full title and all the benefits.
Yeah, after 10 years working in all the Star Wars properties, I wanted to make him prove that he definitely was knowledgeable about everything.
Exactly.
I think it may have just been COVID. I think it's just simply it coincided with the show being on air and Bad Batch. So I think it's just literally the admin person has been working from home and didn't have access to change the name on the website, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, we can't change your business cards, so until your business cards come in the mail,
exactly.
That's it.
They have something like the Volume, but they can't operate MS Teams.
How many of these issues have you found working from home? That there's things you just can't do when you're not in the office.
Well,
it might
can
have been
post
just
a tweet.
The one thing I'm very curious, so of the in Filoni we trust. I have officially said that. We know he's doing some great work. He has the upcoming Ahsoka series, the live action, that we're aware of. Obviously Bad Batch. Do we know what else he's working on outside of that?
He's probably involved in Mandalorian Season 3.
Absolutely, yeah.
The Book of Fett or the other one?
Well, I guess now he's got Executive Creative Director at Lucasfilm. It will be all of them.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
So he's a guiding hand. He's one of the new Kevin Feige type characters.
Well, yes. Well, Kathleen Kennedy would be the overarching executive director, I guess, of Lucasfilm. I should have looked up her job title, but I didn't know you were going to go that far, Chris.
Sorry.
And there are a massive list of projects that have been announced within the TV realm for Lucasfilm. There's a huge slate of projects that are out there.
Oh, fantastic!
So we know he's involved in pretty much all of those, because he already has been in the predecessors, and he'll be involved in the rest of them in the future. But massive congratulations to Filoni. I think it just feels like one of the younger generation of nerds that grew up absolutely loving Star Wars has gotten to that height now and is now a real member of that company. I know there's loads of people involved in the company that are massive fans too. So, it really does feel like they're continuing the legacy of Star Wars, let's say.
Yes, definitely. And I think keeping in the Disney, world of adventure as well. Another brief bit of news is that Marvel's MODOK is out every Friday, as from today, the 21st of May. But it's been dropped on the Hulu platform, all 8, all in one go, in the USA.
Yeah.
So, it's a right, smorgasbord of releases for MODOK. But the first episode, was really funny.
Yeah, myself and John watched that directly after this morning. Chris hasn't had the chance to watch it yet,
No,
but it is.
I can't wait.
It's quite funny. There's some very
It's
good lines.
really good.
Very adult. A lot of jokes in there for the parents, definitely. So, check it out. I'd say definitely watch it. I think we might meet back up at some point as the episodes get released and chat about it on the podcast, have a talk about MODOK, because it is a lot of fun. We're not going to go week to week with it. Obviously we're covering Bad Batch now. We're going to be covering Loki next month. So it'll be something that we'll come back to.
We'll certainly slot in, and it's got a great Robot Chicken vibe to it.
It is the same team.
Yeah,
it is
exactly.
Stupid Human.
I saw Seth Green quoted as an exec producer on the show, so I'm sure the Robot Chicken team are involved. Yeah,
he is another executive creative director / guiding hand for all this type of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of. Very quickly, Seth Green is also in Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which dropped last week and is amazing. Just slotting that in there if anyone's wondering what Chris is doing in the weekdays.
That's what Chris has been doing all day,
Chris
every
has
day.
been doing
outside of work.
Outside of work. If you're listening, employers, swear I've been working.
Exactly. But just to say, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, make sure you do subscribe to our main podcast feed. You can find that over on tvpodcastindustries.com or just search TV Podcast Industries on any Jedi or Sith supporting podcast player. We also want to hear your thoughts about the show. You can email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com with any thoughts you have about any of the episodes of Bad Batch or any show that we're covering. You can also join us over in our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries, where I put up a spoiler post every week for each show that we're covering, and you can talk to our other fellow troopers about their thoughts as well on there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Let's get into our spoiler-filled review. Derek, what are some of the episode details?
Show, as I mentioned, is executive produced by Dave Filoni and Jennifer Corbett. This episode was written by Christian Taylor, directed by Saul Ruiz, and the story editor was Matt Michnovetz. We haven't mentioned Christian Taylor before on the show. This is his first episode of Bad Batch, but he has done, I think, 15 episodes of the Clone Wars, so very experienced in this universe. I just thought it would be really interesting to call out one of his other credits. He's worked on loads of TV shows since 1992. I think he's been a writer in many TV shows. But I wanted to call out, he wrote 2 episodes of season 1 of Luke Cage, a show that we covered back on our Defenders TV podcast about, 4 or 5 years ago? He did the episode Now You're Mine, and one that we all remember, Dwick, which is DWYCK. I just think it's really fascinating that he's come over from doing live action show for Netflix for Marvel, and is doing, the Clone Wars and Bad Batch over here in Disney Plus. I always feel like with people like that are involved in comic book TV shows and live action TV shows, getting the call to do an episode of Star Wars must kind of feel like, well, I have to take this call. I really have to give my episode of Star Wars. If I get this opportunity, I'm not going to turn it down, you know?
I am more and more getting happy with the crossover between our good Disney overlords, because through their connection of Star Wars and Marvel and a few others, other kind of key TV productions, we're seeing some of these fantastic writers probably go into areas that we wouldn't have in the past.
Maybe, yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But yes, definitely cool to see him here.
That's really cool.
And you would answer the call.
Yeah, absolutely, wouldn't you? Even if they called us up and said, do you want to write an episode of this? I'll try my hand on it.
I would do it. It would be terrible. It would literally be like the Bad Batch going on a karaoke night.
Okay.
That'd be awesome.
That would actually be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be pretty
Wrecker
good.
doing like Wrecking Ball.
Oh, well, there you
Yeah,
go.
Echo as a droid could do the robot dance.
Oh my god.
I love it.
Actually, I want to see that now.
Yeah, I think we could all help writing that episode. But John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with the actual synopsis for episode 4 of the Bad Batch Cornered?
Sure. On the run from the new Galactic Empire, Hunter decides on a new destination for the Bad Batch, the uninhabited planet of Idaflor, a perfect hideout for the team. But now, cut off from the Republic, the ship needs fuel, the team is out of rations, and the Imperial comm chatter has their ship's signature. Tech proposes they make a pit stop on the planet of Pantora, where they can stock up and he can scramble their ship's signature. Wrecker and Tech pay credits for the silence of Raspar 6, the Sullustan Depot manager at the Pantora Spaceport. But for even more credits, he reveals the Bad Batch's location to Bounty Hunter Fennec Shand, who is on a mission to recover Omega from the team. While Wrecker and Tech repair the Havoc Marauder, Hunter, Omega, and Echo, disguised as a robot, enter the city to resupply. They have to complete the mission quickly, as the population is celebrating the end of the war, just as new clone troopers marching through the street arrive at their new posting. Hunter temporarily exchanges Robot Echo for the Imperial credits they need, and Echo becomes a droid supervisor for a group of astromechs at the shop. As he bargains with the shop owner, Omega wanders off to chase down her new toy and is separated from Hunter. Fennec, posing as a helpful passerby to abduct Omega while she's on her own, is caught after Hunter tracks and then frees Omega from Fennec's clutches in a chase high above the streets of Pantora, and they return to the Havoc Marauder. Fortunately, with the help of Echo's new team of astromech repair droids that he frees from their restraining bolt, the Bad Batch are ready to escape the planet just in time. But Fennec Shand reassures her employer that she will capture her target.
Fennec Shand, finally in the animated universe. If you didn't watch The Mandalorian, if you didn't watch it, which I think is largely unlikely if you're a Disney Plus viewer and you're going to watch The Bad Batch, very likely you would have watched The Mandalorian. But if you didn't, this is a character that was brought into live action in the first season of Mandalorian, played quite a major part in the second season, and is played by the one and only Ming-Na Wen, who's pretty much been involved in tons of Disney projects, from Disney animation in Mulan, and done live action for Marvel in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as one of my absolutely favorite characters, Agent Melinda May. She's now doing the Star Wars animation and Star Wars live action with this character Fennec Shand. So very cool to see the character in here. I know we're going to talk a lot about Fennec Shand, but let's get into our blaster points for the episode, our main call-outs for the show. Our first point, let's talk about just the fact that we have a destination, because this was a massive complaint we had last week. I think I even called out last week, all it would take is maybe one line of dialogue that would solve the only big problem that I had, and that dialogue is delivered in the opening segment of this episode. We have Hunter pointing at a map on screen and going, let's go to Idaflor. That planet is unoccupied. It would be a great place to hide out. Right, we have a destination now. That's what I've been looking for a few weeks, right?
Yes, but they're on their way via Pantora, because they are literally running out of everything. But yes, I am so glad they put in this destination. Mm-hmm. I mean, they can zig and they can zag, as Chris would say, all over the galaxy, as far as I'm concerned. But there is a final destination, so to speak.
I love how you got there before me. I was like, yeah, they're going to go there, but they're going to zig and zag. It's not a straight line. I jokingly, when I was watching this earlier, they gave that one line and I went, they literally heard us. And you said it. We said, they just need to give us one line. And I was like, they're not going to do that. They're going to give us a full explanation. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a big kind of discussion. No. They gave us the destination with one line. It was like, yeah, we're going to go here because it's uninhabited. All right. Oh no, but now we need to go here. I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, no, I still think that's fine, though, right? That's the idea that they have somewhere in mind to go, a good reason to go there. We can hide out till it all blows over, and then have adventures on the way there. It feels a little bit like Shaun of the Dead, the way I said that.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like the Winchester. Yeah. They're going to have a few pints and stay there until it's all blown over.
We'll wait for it all to blow over. But yeah, no, it was just, I found it so funny. It was just, it's delivered so quickly. Yes, you're right. It is a destination. It is exactly what we need, because it gives them, theoretically, from a writer's perspective, it gives them purpose.
Yeah.
That is, they have their target. They have their golden apple, whatever, the North
like
Star.
Golden Fleece or something.
Golden
like that.
Fleece, yeah, the North
something.
Star.
Exactly.
They have a target.
And not only that, but they've got the ominous, persistent threat of now Fennec Shand, which gives them that impetus to move onwards, ever onwards. In this case, whether it's stopping off at Pantora because they need supplies, or whether it's stopping off at another planet somewhere else in the galaxy for other reasons, that really helps just sort of connect back to those first couple of episodes with the Kaminoans, and that's really, really good.
I like what's also called out about them going into civilian life from being effectively in the army, where they got everything supplied for them. They just had to go back and refuel to their central location back in Kamino. They just had to get rations so they could eat. And in here, it's suddenly called out that the reason why they have to make this diversion is because they now have to really make do for themselves. All of that stuff they would have been taken care of as members of the army. Now they have to work out a way to do it themselves, which they were never built for. They were never cloned to be people that would be self-sufficient. So suddenly they have, they've described everything that you need to know about the series. They have a destination, somebody following them, and these people all have to work out, including Omega, all of them have to work out who they are and where they're going to be going, which I think is really good to get from this episode. And that was all taken care of in one scene at the start of it. So, yeah, really good.
I also really like the dodgy, sort of official at the spaceport as well. It's kind of, you wonder whether that actually still happens in reality, but I kind of like that he was on the make. And I liked with Wrecker, where he just thought he could impose himself with his like Hulk sort of, hulking sort of frame. But still he wanted, the credits. And I'm definitely sure that they paid more, unless Fennec gave them like 1,000 credit bar. But I think Tech handed over about 4 or 5 bars there. So I think they got fleeced by him. And then he went looking for more by letting Fennec know, of, the ship, and its signature had arrived. So, they kind of kicked everything off.
Do you know, weirdly, they're so conscious of that kind of stuff when they're in an animated show. They did actually call out that Fennec wasn't going to pay him any money until he delivered them to the Bad Batch and Omega to Fennec, and because he didn't actually deliver them, Fennec has given him a smaller amount of money. So they actually called it out in the show. He was going, "Don't leave now. She hasn't paid me yet." And then she went and did actually give him some credits, even though he didn't accomplish the mission. So that's one of the really good things about animation. They can sort this stuff out in dialogue much easier than they can in live action, which I think is cool.
Yeah, no, it is. But one thing I have to call out, and it's going to move us on to point 2, and it's one thing I kind of called out in our previous podcasts, was it's in a really interesting time and a scene. So I suppose blast point number 2 is the celebrating of the quote-unquote end of the war. Or I should say, the end of the war, and people are celebrating, quote-unquote. Celebrating is the interesting part.
Yeah, it's like the same planet, the same things happening here as happened on the planet that Cut was on, wasn't it?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's this time period that is, I'm so enamored, enamored and intrigued about. Because it is seeing this, you forget, like, some people are really happy that the Empire has come, the Galactic Empire has come, and they are paying them, and they just need to sign up, and you're like, oh yeah. Without getting too dark, at some point, this is probably what it was like in some of the more fascist time periods in history. Now, there's the dark side that it's going to get to as well, but this is the initial, hey, we're going to give you all money. This is how you do it. I'm like, seeing this people celebrating the end of what they consider the end of the war with who they considered the good guys winning. It's really interesting.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the clone troopers are the same ones that were helping them against the droid army and all these blockades and all that. So at this moment in time, it's effectively just a rebrand that's happened from Coruscant in terms of we're now going to call ourselves the Galactic Empire, not the Republic. So it's just simply almost a name change, and they're kind of all fairly on board with this. Absolutely. And you get that nice little bit of dialogue again from Echo, who says it depends on what side you're on. Because, okay, it's not the droids, but people who have kind of, maybe been a bit closer or have been refugeed because of the previous war, or a bit closer to the what's actually happened in the Republic Army with the Clone Wars and maybe the changes that have come about or know about this, such as on Alderaan with Senator Organa, who knows the shiftiness that's gone on in Coruscant. So, you've now got this new band of rebels, effectively. Yeah. But most people probably aren't even aware of it. So, it is. It's really interesting. I mean, I also thought the planet as well, or at least this city, on this planet of, Pantora. I saw quite a lot of onion domes, so it felt very Byzantine.
Right.
I've not seen that kind of aesthetic being used before. You've very much got either quite modern look, but in things like temple looks or like Roman columns or that kind of thing. Whereas this was very much more Byzantine with the onion domes, which is, I think, at least for me, I don't remember it before, so it's kind of a new aesthetic in Star Wars.
Well, interestingly, the planet itself was actually visited in Clone Wars, and I love that you guys picked it out, even not knowing that this planet was under the blockade of the Trade Federation, so the people of this planet would know the pain of being under control of the droid army. So they are being liberated, is what it looks like for them. The war is over. The people that tried to save us that time, many years ago, they've now come in and everything's going to be fine now. But you're right. I love the cautious attitude of Hunter, where he's going, wow, this is moving much faster across the galaxy than I thought it was going to. They're days away from the last planet they visited where this happened, and it's already here, So, I really like that kind of, that slow move, or that very fast move of this new era in the galaxy. I think that's an interesting thing that's going on in the background for these episodes.
Yeah, and also with trying to get the money together so that they can get their rations, whilst Tech and Wrecker are working on the Havoc Marauder. I like the fact that the shopkeeper is like, I can't take a bomb. I'm like, I'm selling like little teddies. I like the nice little touch of the Stormtrooper teddy, like we saw in Rogue One, that Omega effectively gets dazzled by. I didn't say a pay for it now. So,
oh no, she broke it. She bought it. So it was what it was. She dropped it. Shopkeeper said, you broke it, you bought it. And that was part of the deal with Hunter. He had to pay for it.
Okay. So it was pay. I was thinking okay, she's picked up a few sort of pickpocket tricks or quickly. But yeah, I like that nice little nod to the clone trooper Teddy, like we saw in Rogue One, although that was a stormtrooper Teddy, I guess.
I think so. Yeah, Rogue One took place just before A New Hope, which was all stormtroopers. So yeah, probably that. But nice call out here.
I do think this series is when they're going to do the official handover.
Oh yeah,
that's what we're going to see. We no longer call them clones. They are raising storm. Ooh, I like that marketing note. Stormtrooper.
And by handover, we mean effectively genocide of the clone troopers. Like this is a pretty massive thing that could be happening throughout this series. A really interesting point. I really just wanted to call out one tiny thing at this point before we move on. Just the celebration of the end of the war. The line from Amidala, Queen Amidala back in Phantom Menace popped into my mind. This is how liberty dies to thunderous applause. This idea that, these troops are marching into town and everybody's applauding them going, yay, we're free, except it's a galactic empire, that line just popped into my head from Amidala. As always, a great line to talk about in Star Wars.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
That is very much the area we're in. They're just going to make it really interesting. And that comment alone, we're going to see this thunderous applause across each of the episodes and each of the planets we visit until they finally get to settle down at the end of 14 episodes.
Will it just be a slow hand clap?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
the last
It's
planet
just like,
we visit.
there you go. Congratulations.
Possibly.
We did it. Woohoo.
Possibly.
Stop with the marching, will you?
I think they may learn as the ripples of rebellion stretch out across the galaxy that this march through their town is probably not a good idea. Let's move on to blaster point number 3. Fennec Shand is a big character in the show. Lots going on around her new hunt and her introduction into the animated universe. Mentioned obviously played by Michnovetz, who played the character on the Mandalorian before. What did you guys think of the character in this animated series, Chris?
She looks younger.
Well, 30 years, 30 years or so younger than the character in Mandalorian.
I like this. She's a cool character with cool character. You don't get that much from it. She is just the stereotypical bad guy, the antagonist. Like, she is now the hunter. We know that it is coming. She has the twinges of good in that, like, when Omega's falling off the roof, she basically tries not to damage the goods, but still tells her how to do it. Like, if she was the ultimate bad guy bounty hunter, she would have... It's just like, drop the kid. Don't tell the kid to drop and roll. And then it's also like, when Omega is hungry, she steals the bread. Anyway, they just need to kind of tease out, is she good or bad? And I think they dropped in a bit too much of good in the moment.
You think?
I think personally, I just like, they were like, what I prefer is like over the course of the next couple of episodes with her doggedly kind of chasing them across the galaxy. Mm-hmm. That's where you can start to kind of sprinkle in like every second episode or at least episode 1 good trait. But they're trying to make her good very quickly. That was my only thing. Anyway, what did you guys think?
Interesting read. I didn't think anything that she did in this episode could be considered good. I thought she was definitely being shady. I thought she was pretending to be a well-wisher, someone that found a lost child who she knew exactly who it was and was trying to befriend her by stealing food for her and trying to get her on side so she'd go willingly with her. I was wondering whether she was waiting to capture the rest of the Bad Batch. We see later on, like, she has no qualms about taking out the biggest member of the Bad Batch. She takes out Wrecker in one move, effectively. And he's the one that's supposed to be the strongest of the whole team. So it felt like she was waiting for Echo to take her back to the rest of the team so that she could capture all of them easily, because it feels like she's that confident in her powers. I think you're right. I think the reason why she saved Omega when she was hanging off the building is because she didn't want to damage the goods. The deal is she goes out, brings Omega back alive to who's hired her, who the Kaminoans, which I think is the whole mission. So if she fell off the building, I think that would be a big problem for getting her money. So in here, I just think she's bounty hunter and using all of her tools, including being kind to a kid, to accomplish her mission.
We don't know that it's the Kaminoans, but I was also thinking it could be Grand Moff Tarkin or Admiral Tarkin, whatever sort of tag he's going by these days.
Saul Guerrera?
You know, because
Maybe?
they have a history. The Empire has a history of using bounty hunters from Empire Strikes Back, and even with the Clone Wars with using Jango Fett. So I just wondered whether it could be. But it probably is the Kaminoans. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's like, it could be. No, more than
spoiled
definitely
it.
is.
Well, I just thought since the last time we saw the Prime Minister of Kamino, he was specifically saying,
exactly.
We need to go and find Omega. And,
No, exactly.
And calling it out. So, yeah.
I'm just predicting possible curveballs, to keep the theory active.
Tension
you
alive.
know.
What did you think of Fennec Shand on the show then, John?
Oh, I loved her. I loved her presence here. Michnovetz, I just adore from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And she was great in The Mandalorian. I think it's really nice now to have her character move into the animated version of the Star Wars universe in the Bad Batch here, in the same way that Ahsoka moved into live action. I just think it's really, really cool that they're still doing this. I mean, it's like Bo-Katan as well, with Katie Sackhoff's voice as Bo-Katan. Again, from the animated series, from Clone Wars, moving, and also in Rebels, and moving into live action with Katie Sackhoff playing Bo-Katan. So really, I just love that they're doing this interchange. I think it's really, really nice. And I think, with Fennec Shand, just, great look. The helmet's amazing. They do bounty hunters really, really well. There's an element of, shady cool about her. So really pleased, to see her. I like the shadiness here. I think I probably have the same reading as you, Derek, that I just felt this was, her aim is to grab Omega. So she's protecting, as you said, Chris, though, she's protecting the goods. Yeah. That's why she saved her from the top of that tower, gave her the advice. It's why she approached her, I guess, to not cause any fuss, to take her off a world quietly. Because I guess Pantora did seem to have quite an active police department here. There are quite a lot of them sort of chasing on foot, on hovercraft.
Dying.
Dying. Yeah, I mean, and certainly, I guess, very consistent for the character given the episodes that she's been in Mandalorian. Very clinical in the sense of, I love the fight with Hunter. And I thought that was a very physical fight for an animation, actually, with him getting her arms, the knife, the one hand with the knife, the one hand with the blaster, and just sort of straining them out the way, only to be sort of knocked with a headbutt with her helmet on. But also then she shoots the chasing cops on the hover bikes as well, straight through the windshield of the bike. But it's a definite kill. So that kind of really fits with the character. And they've really taken that dark side, I guess, and brought it into this animated series. So I thought that was really, really good, actually. And the other interesting thing, after that great chase as well, because I really liked the chase, with her, Hunter, and Omega. It was kind of at ground level, at street level, then it was on the hover, vehicles, then it was down in sewer level, it was kind of really all over the place. It was a great sort of sequence. But when she's knocked from the vehicle that she's, she basically threw the owner out of the vehicle. So there's another one dead. I think she was limping coming out of the crash, which I thought was quite good. I think sometimes, in animated series that something massive happens or an accident, whatever, and they're kind of all pretty okay, really. And here she had a bit of a limp. So, and you could see how annoyed she was at that and, with Omega getting away. So, yeah, I really liked this introduction. This was the big thing for this episode for me. And the chase, in this city on Pantora, I thought was really good.
Chase really reminded me of the one in the Clone Wars with Anakin and Obi-Wan chasing after, Zim Weskel, if I get my names right, for the bounty hunter that was chasing, that they were chasing down through the city, in Coruscant. So it was really cool to see that chase scene in animated form, the one that we saw in Attack of the Clones, the second, Star Wars movie. I think I called it Clone Wars a second ago. Attack of the Clones was the movie. That's it.
Yeah. This was one of the aspects, I think, of now I'm starting to see where you guys fell in love with some of the shows. Because this, the death, the destruction, obviously, I'm not saying that's why you fell in love with it, but
we know all you like, John and Derek, is death in shows, so this is why you love this one.
Metal. Yeah. The headshot, right? The death, the fight scene, the actual action sequence, which you could live action it and put it in, like you said, but actually even take away the hover aspect and put it into just a normal kind of car chase. You're talking Michael Bay level action and fights. It's cool. So there is this this is very strong direction on the action, if we want to call it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Okay, the animated action. It's a strong direction where it is very much what I can starting to consider like adult. It's getting into this really strong, gritty realism. But technically, this is a kid show as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
so as I was saying, I'm starting to see this cool duality. I think that we could. A 7-year-old kid watching this is not going to notice the blue blood headshot.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Or they're not going to care about the man being tossed out of a very, very high speeding.
But I mean, we remember what we saw happen to Tom and Jerry in a cartoon. I mean, if you actually think about that, then they were pretty psychotic.
Oh yeah,
really.
true. Okay.
So I mean, I know, like, I know definitely what you're saying. I think it's like, but the action is what enthralls you and so on. And yes, there is a cop that gets blasted through the head. Pretty good shot there. Mm-hmm. And that's it picks up as well with Hunter, warning Tech and Wrecker and saying, there's someone after Omega, really well trained. And so that there's going to be some interesting backstory that comes from this. I guess will be developed further. I mean, in a sense, this is a backstory as well, because in The Mandalorian, you're like post Return of the Jedi. Yeah. So this is pre Star Wars: A New Hope. So this is part of a backstory effectively. But you just know it's going to be really interesting. And I like that it will need to be consistent and link in with The Mandalorian. And I guess it comes to Filoni's appointment that he can also oversee that,
Yeah, exactly.
It's really interesting. I almost prefer this to the, everything's connected element from Marvel. This just going between live action and the animation.
Interesting. Yeah. I just love the expansion of the character. Definitely, it's really cool to see her in here. Anything else we need to talk about from the episode? And there's one massive thing we haven't talked about yet for the episode that was good fun to watch.
Yes,
John?
Definitely. I really, really loved seeing Echo as the droid with his little with his helmet on and his droid. I loved the interaction with the shopkeeper. And I love the fact that then he's been put in charge of these, protocol droids and astromech droids. The protocol droid, again, this is another off-center reference that no American, I guess, will ever know, but the voice was just like Hyacinth Bouquet. Or,
Mrs. Bucket.
Yeah, Mrs. Bucket. Or it was kind of like, Les Dennis doing his Vera impression from Coronation Street, where it's, I do really do. It's like really just kind of,
over the top and passionate.
Over the top. Yeah, kind of, jolly, sort of middle Britain sort of, woman. Really, really, really good.
Yeah. A really good approximation of what Anthony Daniels would do in the role of C-3PO.
But just really, it felt a little hammed up, but I thought it was funny. And I loved the little astromech droid Clink as well, which I was hoping was going to somehow make his way onto the Havoc Marauder.
You are dying for a droid on board the ship.
I really, really am. But I love the Echo as well. Takes off the restraining bolts. So it felt a bit like, the droid from, Solo as well, where it was like the rise of the droids, freeing the droids from their oppressors. It was really, really good.
Evolution.
Yeah. And just Echo being really annoyed that, he was sold for 3,000 credits, I thought was really, really good. But who knows? Maybe Clink did, sneak aboard the Havoc Marauder. I really, really hope so, because I think that could be a really interesting dynamic with Omega, if there is a droid there, and it's the only droid that was given a name, I think, of all those from the shop.
Yeah.
I wonder if his surname is Eastwood.
Clink Eastwood. I love it. That would be awesome, John.
That
Very
would be
impressive,
quite
very
awesome.
impressive. I love how the whole thing plays out, where you hear where they they have to take off really quickly, and you hear Tech going, "Well, unless you have a whole team of astromech droids, we're not getting out of here anytime soon." And it just cuts to Echo going, "Maybe I can help with that," and they're surrounded by the astromechs. Very cool, very cool. Yes, fun little moments.
This was the rise of the droid army. Kind of like the he's the king of the droids.
Yeah.
Like I'm hoping they play with just that randomly later, where it's like you basically see the astromechs and the C3PO kind of
Exactly,
and then literally an army of them behind as well, where it's just kind of like it goes, maybe I brought some friends, sir.
Yeah, and also like just that it's such a good disguise to have that. To infiltrate, I don't know, Imperial bases, that he is a prototype army droid, and, it would be really a nice ongoing theme going through the series for sure. And I think it just adds a new dimension to Echo as well, because certainly from the Clone Wars, it was a real tragic kind of storyline being experimented on and all this. So that kind of fun element to this character, I think, is really, really good.
Yeah.
So I must say, I really did like Echo the droid.
Yeah, very cool. Maybe we can see a team up with him and Phoebe Waller-Bridge coming back to play her role as the droid from Solo in the future.
I forgot that was her.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my god!
Wow.
Gotta be Fleabag into the Star Wars universe to be amazing.
Exactly.
Droid bag.
Any other notes for the episode, Chris? Anything else you want to talk about?
Not at this point.
Excellent.
I will save it for my defense.
Excellent. I just loved some of the characters that we're seeing, or some of the species that we're seeing, I suppose, in this episode. Since we're moving around the galaxy, seeing we mentioned earlier on in the synopsis, the depot manager, the guy that's being duplicitous and stealing money from both the Bad Batch and also getting money from Fennec Shand. He's a Sullustan, which is the character Nyan Num, you'll remember, as the pilot of the Millennium Falcon in Return of the Jedi. So same species. The shopkeeper being one of the same species as was in Jabba's palace. Ruiz, I think, was the character name on my action figure box when I bought him, meaning 3 eyes, because he had 3 eyes. Of course, the characters are named back in the days of Star Wars, but I just love having those kind of characters peppered throughout the universe as well. I always think that's fun in Star Wars.
Good. Completely agree.
Let's close out the episode then and our discussion about it. What did you think overall of the Bad Batch episode 4, Cornered? John?
I really, really like this episode. I give it 4 Clink Eastwoods out of 5.
You changed that during the podcast.
I did, yeah. That's how bad my jokes are, I guess. But
works in progress.
I really, really liked it. I loved Fennec Shand being introduced into the animated world of the Bad Batch. I thought the city was really interesting with its onion domes. I know that's more aesthetic. I love the chase from street, hover to sewer level with Hunter, Omega, and Fennec. I really, really like that. And I think, she gives that impetus for them to just like move on and drive forward, and having to adapt their plans because they are effectively being tracked. And that it gives a really urgency to the dynamic. And I loved, as just mentioned, Echo the droid. It also was a really nice addition. And I really do hope that Clink is somehow still on that ship on the Havoc Marauder by the next episode. But I don't think that is going to be the case.
You'd love it though. You love your astromechs. You love your astromechs.
I really do. Yeah. So, it's 4 Clink Eastwoods out of 5. So, Chris, what did you think?
I enjoyed this. This would be one of my favorites to date. More, I think, is because it's leaning. I'm starting to understand the duality aspect more. In the kind of the light and dark side, the kid and the adult. It's trying to find that grey area, which I think I'm starting to enjoy. It's still not fully engaged. Just to annoy our Star Trek fans. No, I think it's more. It's now they just dropped the line of where they're going. So I think I just want to see like more impetus put on the long arching story, the overarching storyline for the whole season. I think it's just, I don't fully know, aside from we need to get here to this place to hide, which feels like a more like a mid-season story arc, like plan versus this is what they need to do. It's not like it's not the epic Star Warsian kind of storyline that I'm used to. So I think I just want to get. It's probably going to happen in the next episode now that we say it.
Absolutely.
It's going to be. It's going to go, oh my god, this is the big story. I'm like, okay, cool, now I'm in.
They're absolutely never going to a planet to just settle down and sit there until everything blows over. That's definitely not happening.
But they might.
Yeah.
They might. So there you go. Yeah, I'm starting to enjoy this. Let's wait and see how we go into the next one on episode 5. Derek, what do you think?
Genuinely, it's just amazing how one line of dialogue can fix what I need in a show just to be really invested in it. Exactly as you've said, Chris. Just the idea that there is a goal, and John, you said it as well. The fact that there is a goal, they've come up and said we need to get to here. Oh, we can't get to there right now because we have to do this. Fine, and now this person's chasing us, so we need to get out of this location really quickly. Like that, just those elements of a story help to propel a show into being a great show, or a really good show, something that I'm going to watch every week. Because now it's, we come from the age of watching Incredible Hulk or The Fugitive on TV, which was effectively a show that said, this person's on the run all the time and somebody's chasing them. And that's all you needed to know. And every week they get into adventures and they do things. All I need to know is that there's an impetus for them to move. And they did it this week really quickly in the opening of the episode. So they got it right. The other kind of issue we had that we talked about before in the previous episode was just the balance between that adult side of the story and the kid side of the story. This time it really felt like a group of parents taking care of a kid. The kid does something, she gets lost, and the rest of the episode felt like they got the balance right of what you do in an animated show aimed at a wide audience. It didn't feel like everything being too kiddie or everything being too adult. They got the balance right there as well. So, I think this is up there already as a really good episode.
Agreed.
We've got a bunch of feedback to get to, some that we missed out on last week, and thanks very much for sending in your feedback. First up, Alex Baelish sent a voicemail into us about his thoughts on the first couple of episodes, and unfortunately it popped into my spam folder on TV Podcast Industry, so I found it just after we recorded. Sorry, Alex, but here's your thoughts on the first couple of episodes of the show.
Hey guys, this is Alex. I just wanted to comment on the first couple of episodes of Bad Batch. First off, I want to thank you guys for covering this because I'm a big fan of Clone Wars and Rebels and even Resistance. And I think that this format really lends itself to create a bigger story and define stuff. And I think Dave Filoni has really done a great job once again of weaving everything in to get us to where we are at the current movies. But this last episode, I really love the fact that they're really trying to weave in the kid, as they like to call her, because they're learning as parents how to deal with her. And I love that Wrecker made her own little space on the ship, and that she's really trying to prove her wealth by getting into that small space and getting the piece of equipment that they need to get the ship running. And then she also used her flashlight. I think she's a lot smarter and she's a lot more keen than the average child. Plus, she relates more to those clones because she's one. I just love it. On the flip side, I think what Crosshair is doing is just crazy. I love that storyline, and he still has moments where he's questioning himself. I love the leap of how they get rid of the clones and get into the current situation where you have normal, everyday people becoming stormtroopers. I also thought it was kind of ironic how the one guy that ended up dying was like, hey, we get 3 square meals and they have really good equipment. This is a lot better than the Resistance. So I just think that's really kind of neat. Little disturbed that they were killing civilians, but I think that it was also kind of ironic how after the mission was a success in their eyes, that the guy went from a captain to an admiral, he got a promotion. Can't wait to hear your thoughts and talk to you soon.
Thanks, Alex. I guess reinforce the behaviors you want to take forward is the motto of the new Galactic Empire. Oh, you slaughtered some civilians. Promotion for you. You're right. I don't think we even call that out. Just the idea of the former Republic army member who's now joined this new empire, going, 3 square meals a day, and then he gets killed.
Yeah, he's the one.
Yeah.
He's the one that got kind of taken out by Crosshair, but also was the one, I guess, baiting him really as well. That he was the future, or the stormtroopers were going to be the future, and clones would be a thing of the past.
Yeah,
very much like Tarkin-esque, I guess.
Yeah, but unwilling to murder civilians, which is why he was killed.
Yeah, definitely. And thanks, Alex, for the voicemail, because. Yeah, the weaving in of the kid, of Omega into the storyline, is a really interesting one, because, just how it's done, last week's episode 3, you have the Bad Batch effectively understanding that she's not a clone trooper. She is a kid. But having said that, like you say, she has that sense of being comfortable with them because they're all clones. And I think in this episode, where last week's the Bad Batch learnt how to deal with Omega, or at least begin to know how to deal with her, she has learnt in this episode, not to trust strangers, that the galaxy is dangerous. She was in proper peril here. She trusted Fennec Shand. She was hanging off a very tall building, hanging off a moving vehicle, you name it. So again, it's like this week felt like her learning curve, or the start of that journey for her. So really, really good stuff.
Completely agree. Do they know she's a clone? I think it hasn't been explicitly stated, has it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the reason why I remember it was Tech that just assumed everybody knew, because he was like, it's so obvious that she's a clone like us. Why don't you guys know this? Oh, is she?
Okay. There you go. Is she? There, see? You guys are Tech. I am not.
There you go, Chris. There you go. Thanks so much, Alex. We also got a voicemail in from Gary, again, just after we recorded our last episode, our discussion about episode 3.
Hi, gentlemen. I'm a long-time listener. I've been with you guys since Jessica Jones. And this is the first time I've felt the need to call in, because I could not disagree with you more on the Bad Batch episode 3. My major point is that we don't know what the show is going to be, and you guys are speculating about, I hope that they don't do this thing or that thing or this other thing. And we don't know yet. And even if they do any one of those particular things, I trust Dave Filoni and his writing staff to do any one of those things in a way that feels new and different, even though we're still using the basics of the Joseph Campbell Hero of Many Faces framework. So let's let the show be what it's going to be, and we'll judge it appropriately. Let's not let our anticipation of possible storylines ruin our appreciation for the stories that is being told. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Gary, for the feedback. Look, I suppose everyone the whole fun part of this, having a podcast and being able to talk to you guys, our fellow defenders, as you said, back from Jessica Jones, my namesake, is this discussion, this fun kind of conversation. And as you hearing my voice now, you will hear I'm actually more and more becoming enamored and intrigued by it. And it is interesting. I just think the fun part of what we do is the speculation, the discussion. And don't worry, like, there are things we love and things we hate in all aspects of everything. Hate is even too strong as dislike. Trust me, I have some of the best shows in the world. We discussed Watchmen, one of the best shows ever written. And we still had things that we disliked about some of the episodes. So trust me when I say this will not colour our judgment, will not colour I'm not going to speak for the guys. I will colour my judgment, not colour, I will continue to watch this show and give it every aspect and every opportunity to grow and wow me. And as you can hear, for the last couple of minutes, or say however long this episode has been going, because I'm not sure how much Derek is going to edit out, it's growing on me, and I am in Filoni we trust.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gary, as you have been a long time listener of the podcast, we will be covering every episode of the show, regardless. We always are really hopeful when we start a series that we don't hate it, because covering an entire show that we hated would be awful. But yes, we are absolutely in the same boat as you. We love what Dave Filoni's delivered in the Star Wars universe. We're all Star Wars fans, even though Chris hasn't seen a lot of the animated shows. He is a big Star Wars fan as well. So we know if we have a little down comment on an episode, it's not like we're going to drop it off and not come back to the show. So, but it definitely this week answered what we wanted to be answered in the last week's episode, really.
100%. But just apropos of nothing, by the way, this is our last ever episode of the No, joking.
No, it's not. We will be back next week. But thanks so much. We hope you're going to be back with us next week, Gary, as well.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for the feedback, Gary. Yes, I absolutely trust Dave Filoni as well, as yourself. And I think, this has got a long way to breathe, like the fine wine that is Clone Wars and Rebels as well. Big fan of those two. So yeah, I think it's building up the momentum, and I guess that's what you do on a 16 episode series. Exactly. But thanks so much, Gary, for the feedback. On to our Facebook feedback. We've got some from Dan Lee. Interesting to see Fennec. And boy, she really doesn't care about straight up murdering civilians or cops. After my complaint last week that the show seems aimless, it's nice to finally have some kind of roadmap set out. Omega is important. People are after her. The Bad Batch want to find out who. I can get on board with that. Yeah, thanks so much, Dan, for that. Yeah, absolutely. We have a real good motivation going on here. We've had the introduction of the Bad Batch and the big opener, that reconnect with them, and certainly the reconnect with the current situation in that galaxy that we love so much, far, far away, and coming into that intimate space of the Bad Batch now with Omega in the Havoc Marauder. It's really good to get that kind of motivation and drive, and certainly with the murdering Fennec for sure.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Dan. Chris, do you want to take the next piece of feedback?
Yes, we have feedback from Alex Balish, who says, I know someone not like the format right now, since it's the problem or monster of the week. But I love how it lays the groundwork for bigger things. They brought Fennec into the mix, which gives us a nice little Easter egg. Wonder if we might see any other characters like Mando or Baby Yoda. She was so amazing live action, but put her here, she gets even better. I have to say, Omega has to be one of the most annoying characters in the Star Wars universe next to young Anakin Skywalker. As a father of a 6-year-old, unfortunately, this is what some kids do, especially when everything is new to her. I hope they can smarten her up quickly, but I'm afraid we have more of this to come. Thanks, Alex. I don't think we're going to Baby Yoda, because Oh, well, suppose he was 50-something. Yeah, we could. It would be
Certainly
baby Yoda.
Yeah, like an actual
definitely.
baby Yoda rather
Yeah,
than
it would be-
Grogu. Like he may not have a name. He may be only about 10 years old when we see him. He probably look quite similar though.
Yes, probably. And in terms of one of the most annoying characters in Star Wars, there are worse characters than this in the Star Wars. We all know who we're talking about.
Is it like J.J. Abrams?
What, Jar Jar Binks?
Well, there's Jar Jar. Anakin, yeah, I guess, was a little whiny, I guess.
But like all good 6-year-olds, they will grow up at some point.
Yes.
Absolutely. I certainly always remember going to see the animated Clone Wars movie when it was on the big screen and first getting introduced to Ahsoka Tano running around calling herself Snips and talking about cool Skywalker Jedi Master. She was the most annoying character I'd seen, and she's now my favorite one of my favorite Star Wars characters. I love her character arc in Clone Wars, love what she's done, and love her being brought into live action. I really like the character now. So if they can do that with that character, who I had a genuine instant dislike to, they could definitely do that with Omega.
Well, that's it. I think the animated series have really done that thing of developing, growing the character, but almost as, growing up as well. And I think, like, as Alex says, kids are kids, whether they're on good old planet Earth or whether they're in a galaxy far, far away. And, if you're writing with your experience, then it is that awe and wonder and parents or adults just, having to get themselves into a different zone of dealing with their kid. And this is this kind of situation, on the Havoc Marauder. But, I'm really hoping that, like with Ezra, Ezra at the start was very different from, by the end, like in terms of him understanding his destiny, what he was and what he had to do and the bonds they had made with, all the other members of the Rebels in Star Wars Rebels. And like you say with Ahsoka. So I think I remember
going from season 1 of Star Wars Rebels to season 2, and they'd given Ezra a haircut, and he'd grown up about 3 or 4 years or something between seasons. I was going, who's this character? It's a completely different character, but it was exactly the same growth of the character. He certainly had the same traits. And
there's potentially a lot of great growth here with Omega.
We're only starting.
Exactly. She could be Omega Palpatine.
She absolutely could be.
Or Omega Skywalker in the future.
You never know. You never know. Thanks so much once again, Alex, for your feedback. Deanna Mescal says, nice, enjoyable episode. I could do without the shipwreck repair of the week trend and oops, kid gets in trouble and needs to be rescued. It's going to get old very fast. I get using this device in these early episodes to show how out of depth the Bad Batch are when it comes to parenting and operating without a support system. Hope they move past it quickly though. It was nicely done, and how it was connected with the sale of Echo and a new droid army to make quick work of that problem. Those droids were a nice callback to the bigger Star Wars universe. Stripping their ship to take weapons, etc. to a pawn shop, combined with Hunter's response to the cheers about the end of the war, was definitely a promise about the things to come. Those people definitely won't be cheering for long.
Absolutely.
As noted by others, it was a great relief to see a bigger plan taking shape, although I really hope they do not head off to Idaflor to hide. Of course they didn't really get any supplies, so I suppose they can't. Hopefully their encounter with Fennec Shand will teach them that they do need help. She is so awesome. I loved every minute of it. Even if she did take out Hunter and Wrecker so easily, it was almost embarrassing. Is Wrecker over his head injury, or have we already dismissed that worry? I know the series has a long way to go, but I'm so eager that the Bad Batch to connect with my favourite characters. Please give me Ahsoka. Can't wait to see where we go from here. I keep thinking about Wrecker's comment, don't scare the kid, and yet I can't help thinking it's Wrecker and the Bad Batch who are scared. They are floundering. None of their skills and experience have prepared them for this type of mission. They are doing their best in this rapidly changing world with unknown enemies, but they cannot find their balance. I love them all the more for their weakness.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Deanna. I think you've given me a new insight. I hadn't really connected that, this idea of, okay, we've talked about the Empire being formed, all this stuff with the credits and so on. But you're right. It's the fact of this rapidly changing world and the unknown enemies. It's like everything is in flux with the defeat of the droid army, the rise of Palpatine and this new Galactic Empire. And yeah, they are, I guess, encapsulated in not having the Republic support structures. They are off balance, and now they've got this kid in Omega with them. So it's actually, that is a fascinating dynamic to come into this, and it plays to all the usually good stuff, I think, from the two previous ones, like with Ezra and Kanan, the Jedi, and also with, I guess, Anakin Skywalker and Snip having that Padawan, and whether he is too young to have the Padawan, whether he can train it correctly, and certainly with our knowledge as the audience that he is the big Darth.
Thanks so much, Deanna, for your feedback.
Yes, thank you so much. Over on the Twitter, the tweets, Matt Murdoch at Musical Concept had this to say. At TV Pod Industries, I love Ming-Na Wen, but now that you have Fennec in this early of a timeline, you now can't put her in any kind of peril in any shows between here and The Mandalorian without knowing she'll survive, making her just an annoying foe underappreciated for surviving. Given what we've learned about her from Mandalorian, it's hard to see her as anything more than a possible foe turned friend in the series, not an end to the story. I suppose some might find that compelling, but I don't. If this were geared strictly for adults, then I'd say her victory over the Bad Batch would be compelling, but the show is not going to kill Omega, as she is one of the target audience representatives. Thanks for that, Matt. Yeah, I suppose it's that kind of... We've seen this done in other shows, and I think they might be able to do something like... They could take her hand, being Star Wars.
Well, yeah,
and
absolutely.
then she gets a robotic hand. Like, there still can be some peril about it.
Yeah.
Like, she gets knocked unconscious and falls into a coma for 20 years. Like, they can still do very cool things. I do agree that I think they're showing her to be because of what we know she does become in the future, we know she is going to be slightly foey and friendly at the same time.
Well,
yeah,
we did talk about that earlier on in the episode. Yes. Yeah, I know. I'm. This is where I really don't like speculating too far ahead of a character's development, because you're talking 20 years, 17 years between now and The New Hope, and then 5 to 7 years roughly in between there. So you're talking like about almost 30 years between now and when the character comes back. And we have no idea how long Ming-Na Wen is going to be involved in this show. She may appear every couple of episodes or once a season to chase them down. We don't know whether we're going to get massive character development from Ming-Na Wen's Fennec Shand in the show. So I'm not sure if we're actually going to see the storyline of her turning to become friend to those characters, because she may not be a central character in the show for long enough to become the friend of them.
Yeah, it's difficult to know quite the level of involvement. I mean, I kind of feel, seeing her survive, being a survivor, that to me would be interesting. I think, that idea of knowing where she's at in Mandalorian and being 30 years, and like a lot can happen. And I think it depends on what arc they take it on. I mean, I think, for me, Rogue One is one of the best Star Wars, and that's actually a story that we knew what happened.
We knew everything that was
going to happen, but the way it was delivered. Yeah. Now, this is a different kind of storytelling for sure, and a different representative, and a different target audience. But I think, she's a great character on her own, and I kind of feel that potentially here, if she's being employed by the Kaminoans, if eventually the Empire and the Kaminoans fall out, and given that the Empire is after the Bad Batch, there may be a grudging team up, for sure. Because they're going to have to, my enemy's enemy is my friend. So it'll be interesting. It could even be that her storyline is taken, they focus on her for one of the
okay.
episodes. I don't know. But it is possibly, this is as you say, the balance of theorizing and speculating as to what may happen. And as Gary said, there is that balance to be made of just seeing what the show delivers.
Absolutely. Let's not jump to the conclusion that it's going to all be bad when we theorize about what's going to come in the future. Let's jump to the conclusion that it's going to be really good. But I will say, Matt, you're probably right. They're probably not going to kill Omega. I don't think it was ever crossing my mind that anybody was going to kill Omega in this show. That's not what the show is about. I feel like we may lose a member of the Bad Batch at some point in the show. One of the main protectors of Omega may have to be sacrificed to save her. I think that's entirely possible in a show like this, that you would lose one of those characters, because that happens in all of Star Wars. You do have heroes sacrificing themselves. But I just can't see that they'd kill off Omega in the first couple of episodes of the show.
I will speculate it will be bad. The Bad Batch. Hey!
Excellent,
Hey!
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Let's move on to our final piece of feedback for this episode. Dr. Bob Phillips says, well, I either had a better week this week or this was a better episode. The special child is identified, dodgy ship repair shops do their worst, and bounty hunters are doing their morally neutral best as Mando comes to Bad Batch Town. Very much enjoyed the droid revolution as well, the parade for the victors, and B3PO, at least I think that's what they should be called. I like it, B3PO instead of C3PO. Very impressive.
I prefer D3PO.
I prefer Hyacinth Bouquet 3PO. To be honest, with that voice, and I should have mentioned earlier, that is from a show that I remember hating as a kid because I was forced to watch it, I think by whether parents or grandparents, but it was called Keeping Up Appearances, and it was like, but she was a great actress, and the shrill voice is certainly what I identified with the protocol droid.
Well, with that very weird way to close out our episode of Star Wars The Bad Batch, thank you so much to everybody for joining us for a discussion about this week's episode of The Bad Batch. We'll be back next week for episode 5 of Star Wars The Bad Batch. Still waiting on these names to be released in advance, so we don't have a name for this episode.
Yes, and Loki is fast approaching on June the 9th, so we will be covering that as well. So we will be fellow troopering it and fellow defendering it as well. We'll be all over the place, but in two great universes, the Marvel and the Star Wars universe. / Galaxy / Mars Bar.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. Look forward to catching you all next week. Don't forget, head on over to patreon.com/TV Podcast Industry, where you can support us for just a single $1 or galactic credit, whatever you prefer. Also, to ensure that you get every episode of our good show, make sure you head on over to tvpodcastindustries.com, where you can subscribe to all of our feeds, and you will never miss an episode. We will see you all next week.
Absolutely.
I was going to say in Galactic we trust, but that's probably in the Empire we trust.
No, let's not do that.
No, let's not go that far.
There's only one other way to go, and that's in the Sith we trust, and we're not going there.
Exactly. If you want to send in any thoughts about the episode I did mention, just email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. But if you want to send any thoughts in about MODOK, I don't know which way you'll be watching it. As we said, we're only getting one episode a week over here, but if you're getting all 10 episodes and want to share your thoughts about MODOK, we'd love to hear them. Email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com and just mark MODOK on your email. Thanks so much. See you soon.
Yeah, thanks so much, fellow troopers, for joining us for this week's episode of The Bad Batch. And remember, keep watching, keep listening, and keep hyper jumping.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.